Hey guys, welcome to another album review here on the Nordic Sound. Today we are going to be talking about Vekja from Bló Dyr. So one of the great pleasures that I take in running this platform is the excitement of catching new bands and artists early, when they're often at their most inspired and their most energetic. This excitement is amplified in the young and niche music scene that is pagan folk, in which there's more room for experimentation and personal expression. And when a band ideally brings something new and unexpected to the table, it's all the more fun. This was the exact excitement that I felt back in March of 2023 when I first stumbled upon Bló Dyr and their debut album, Reisa. So, while the rumors of pagan folk's demise have been greatly exaggerated due to the onslaught of pandemic musicians all imitating one another with very little variation on stimulus toggle harpas, or the cringe-laden bands just pumping Disney levels of cash into their promotional material on Instagram and TikTok, the truth is that there is really a lot of genuinely interesting, meaningful, and fun music to be found in this quirky and charming countercultural music scene. And this depth to the genre that is hiding beneath the surface is why it maintains so much of my attention and interest, not only as a fan of the music, but of course as an ethnomusicologist as well. So as you may have guessed already, all of this has everything to do with my experience with Bló Dyr's music since I first listened to Reisa a couple years ago, and then of course my expectations anticipating how they're going to follow up Reisa with Vekja, which released this March. What struck me about this band at the beginning and what stuck out through the pagan noise, so to speak, was just how much fun their music is. In a genre that can easily be caricatured as a bunch of just sweaty, hairy dudes groaning around a campfire, to quote Vévaki loosely, to hear a band smile through their music is just a hell of a breath of fresh air. So 2 years after Reisa left that impression on me, the question stands: how are they going to follow it up? Which of the creative threads spun throughout Reisa will they follow into the next chapter of their journey? What immediately jumped out at me on my first listen to Vekja is how much they doubled down into that rowdy fantasy adventure energy that any avid player of Dungeons & Dragons or any tabletop role-playing game will feel right at home with. But I need to clarify this at the outset, because I don't think I made this clear enough when I talked about their music last time, is that this in no way comes off as a gimmick, as many artists who go with this style can easily fall into. Instead, it is a genuine kind of whimsy and adventure that sounds clear throughout Vekja's runtime, and of course also through Reisa's as well, inviting you into Bló Dyr's world of balladry, merriment, and legend. And sorry, camera died, had to reboot it. Where was I? What impresses me even further, though, with this energy is how this is also carried through with the voiceover narration tracks from the vocalist Mellahan. These spoken tracks, as folk metal and dungeon synth have shown us over the decades, can really struggle to toe the line between immersive and just too goofy, right? But I'm happy to say that in the case of Vekja, it's the former, while also, of course, still being fun. And together, the songs and these immersive narrative tracks weave an utterly spellbinding experience that will leave you with a smile on your face through much of Vekja's runtime. So Vekja's sound is both expanded and more focused than Reisa's, with the core instrumentals comprising of the saz and the dulcimer held together by percussion. This eclectic instrumentation only adds to the fresh and the original sound of the band itself, while also providing more than enough animated accompaniment to the voices of Mellahan, Nea, and Tim, who really define the band's overall sounds. If I were to say what defines the sound of Bló Dyr, I would just say that the vocals have so much character to them, and the way that they're used is really interesting too, and I'll talk about that in a second. So if I were to narrow down Vekja's strengths to just a couple of tracks, the opener, Across the Sea, showcases just the unrestrained fun of Bló Dyr. I remember my wife Alyssa came in when I was listening to this. She was like, what the hell are you listening to? And I made her, stand here and listen to it. And she was like, all right, this is a lot of fun. And so, that is the impression that the opening track leaves with you. Is like, okay, it's time for a good time, right?
journey that will be full of stories. Fears and ghost voices carried by the wind that shore the path all over the sea. Heart is led of hope straight for generations to come. May the future be our heroes on the throne. Let us pray to the God, pray that we will be victorious. And together we roll, we'll be glorious. All over the world we'll go, across the seas we'll roll. All over the world we'll go, across the seas we'll roll. May the gods be with us. May our strength never fail. They still sing our songs.
While the closer Sleipnir highlights the band's songwriting and arranging at its most impressive, with the layering of choruses, the throat singing, and the independent lines of the band all weaving together in a fluid and a coherent track.
In the blur of his ways, he runs, till he stands on the edges of
So the moral of the story here with Bló Dyr's Vekja is just, as much as we like to give dark folk and pagan folk crap for all sort of blending together with musicians who are afraid to take chances to express their own individuality, everyone has that band they want to sound like, and sometimes they can stick too closely to that and really restrict themselves in not a productive way. Bló Dyr shows what happens with this genre when you were just like unapologetically yourself, right? And that is what I want to see more of in this music scene. I was even talking to Nea, and I told her, I was really trying to pin down what does this sound like? What other bands can I think of that sound like this? The only thing I could really come up with was the Dread Crew of Oddwood, and that's close enough, but like they're still not exactly a one-to-one. And for me to be stumped at the end of an album, like what does this sound like? It sounds like Bló Dyr. That is sort of like the ideal place that you want to be when you release your second album. And that is where they stand with me right now. They just have such an iconic sound that it just, as I said, leaves a smile on your face. So, Vekja from Bló Dyr is available exclusively on Bandcamp. As far as I know, it wasn't on Spotify or Apple Music for me, so I don't know if that's intended or not. I know I've been in that place with Scuzzlebutt where it's supposed to be there and it's not. But so far, you can only get it on Bandcamp, where you can download it to support the band directly. I really hope you find the time to listen, as it's just a damn good time from beginning to end. So guys, that is my review of Bló Dyr's Vekja. Please let me know down in the comments how you feel about it, if you like it. Most of you are going to like it. And sort of how it came off to you when someone just allows to, like, let their hair down. As a bald guy, it's a silly thing to say. And just enjoy the ride of making music. When people smile through their music, I think that's when I enjoy it the most. So, take care guys. See you on the other side.